it looks like Ephrata's had to make a transition at quarterback a little earlier than you would have wanted. So you've had to do that in the past as well. But how is the younger quarterback kind of adjusting to all of that? And what do you like some of the attributes that he brings out there on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing, obviously we'd love to have Carson out there and still being our starter, but unfortunately we kind of bit with some injury bugs this year, and I think there's a lot of teams in the league that are kind of going through the same thing. So, but having a kid like Malachi being able to step in, he's an unflappable kid, and he was getting reps all summer. The intention was him for him to be the backup, play receiver, play safety, and kind of let Carson be the guy. But Malachi certainly has a unique skill set, and I think he has his teammates believe in him, and I think even from the beginning he's like, you know what, coach, I don't got to do this myself. All I got to do is just not mess it up and hand it around the people around me, and just be me. And I think that's the biggest lesson I was trying to teach him from the beginning is don't be anyone besides Malachi. You don't got to be Carson. You don't got to be Cale Grant. You don't got to be Sam McCracken. You don't got to be any of those guys. Just be the best version of Malachi. And that's kind of been cool. And he's been around the program for a while with both of his brothers three of his brothers playing for me coming through. Malachi's been our ball boy since he was on C team until 8th grade. So he's been on the sidelines. He's been around things. Been around the coaches. So it was just he has some level of comfort. But obviously taking snaps on a Friday night changes that a lot.
All right, so he did have to come in at a tough part of the schedule. You played CV, you played Exeter, two of the better teams in not only the section but in the district if you look at the district standings. How are you guys as a team bouncing back from those games, and how are you staying focused heading into a big rivalry game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we took care of business in our 3 non-league contests, which certainly helped things because we necessarily didn't have to press and try to make up ground. As you said, CB and Exeter are 2 very good football teams, and I think we competed in those games, and I think in both games we had opportunities that if we would have taken advantage of them, we could have maybe done some things. But against 2 teams like that, you almost have to play a perfect game, and there were certainly growing pains. But I think we saw improvements from CB to E-Town the next week, and then we did some good stuff defensively last week against Exeter, despite what the score and the yardage looks like. We made them work. So and I think it just you creating shared experiences for the kids, and they realize that didn't go the way we wanted to, but here we are 4-2, have a big rivalry game this week that we got to make sure we take care of business with that aspect. So you just got to do 1 week at a time and live and learn, and don't let a team beat you twice by letting it hang over after a loss.
All right, well, it's backyard brawl time, which is one of my favorite things to cover no matter what the sport is, and it's finally back. It came back in 2023 in an epic fashion in the district championship game. That matchup had never happened at such a high level, and just a really cool moment for you guys in a historic season, right? That 23 season was just going great for you guys. If you think back in your mind, dig back deep, what was the feelings going into that game? The excitement, were you nervous? Was there a lot of pressure? What was the feelings?
I think it's a unique thing when you play a rival at that point in the season. For the loser, there's no next week.
Sure.
And I think during that season, our whole thing was just trying to fight for one more week, and we didn't really focus on the opponent as much. Just it was, okay, what do we have to do to try to extend this thing one more week? And it was. I think the coolest part about the whole thing is the short bus ride, and you get there and you have all of your fans set up tailgating as you're pulling in. You have Cacalico fans there. Like it was an electric environment from the time we got off the bus to go through warm-ups. It meant a lot to a whole bunch of people. And I think that's what's really cool. You have 2 communities that are passionate about football, and to see it come back to a point where it's competitive and you have 2 teams that are going to give you their best every week or every time you go out and play. Obviously the past 2 times that we've played, it hasn't gone our way, and
sure.
I guess 2010 was the last time that Ephrata was able to bring home the Review Cup piece to it. I think Coach Frank was the quarterback actually on that team, so he talks about that a little bit with the team. But it's awesome, and we value the ability to play the schools that border us, because it creates such a better environment. And to do it at that level and that type of season was certainly special. Unfortunately, we didn't come out on top then, but it was certainly a really cool and a neat experience, and one that we'll remember for a very long time.
Just a question to dig deep into that game. Right into going into halftime, you guys were down at the goal line. And you made the gutsy call to go for it and try and punch it in for the touchdown, get some points, some momentum. What was the feeling there, and what was the play call that you thought was going to work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was 2 plays in that first half that stuck out to me.
Sure.
It was right early in the first quarter, right after we punted, and the next time they fumbled, and then we ran a double reverse pass, and we just overthrew Quentin heading towards away from the scoreboard side of it, and we just overthrew it.
Yeah.
And you
would have been a touchdown.
But it was there's 7 points,
Yeah.
and that changes the trajectory of the game. And then that halftime decision, I think we were like on the 1 or 2 yard line, and I always get worried taking a field goal. I think we were on one of the hashes, if I remember correctly, and I always think that's a tough angle for a kicker to try and cut it in. And also at that point they were up, and I think they had 2 touchdowns.
It was 16-0 at that point.
Yeah. At that point, I didn't think 3 points was going to be the difference in the game that I thought we needed to kind of have a score. And what we did, we decided that we had Braden Brown, who was 220 pounds, and we had Quentin lead blocking for him, and we tried to run behind 2 of our better linemen. And kudos to their kid, he did a nice job. He pinched, he got underneath our center and our guard, and split that kind of A gap there, and was able to make a heck of a play. And we ended up being inches away. And I think there, making it a 16-7 game, you don't know what's going to happen from that point. And but it was, we always try to play a little gutsy, a little risky, and we're always going to push that edge, go for it on 4th down, go for it on touchdowns, and to try to make the other team make a play. And they made the play and we didn't in that situation.
Understandable. Yep. I was always just curious. Never really got an answer on that. So we'd love to hear that. After the season's over, the season ends in that game. You're 2 years removed from that now. Were you able to look back at being that season, getting to that game, playing your rival in that game, and are you able to have any fond feelings about that season and that game?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. When you have the best season in school history, that's something that you can hang your hat on. This only the second time that we're in playoffs, and then getting the first three playoff wins, and getting to host 2 games at the War. And I think that whole run from the time we played Lower Dauphin to Garden Spot to Hershey to even Cocalico, we were able to play in front of sellout crowds each and every week. That doesn't happen that much in high school football anymore, to have that environment. So I think it showed the progress that we were able to make. So when I started with the 0-31 streak, and then losing up my first 21 games as a coach, and then having to battle through, and getting some help in the league, being in Section 3, and all the work and all the years that we were 6-4 and 5-5, and just that first team out of district playoffs. And I think the biggest thing for me at the end is it showed our kids and our community what's possible. That it didn't necessarily have to be, well, that's really good for Ephrata. But I mean, what we did was good for anybody. To get to the district finals, to be top 8 in the state, all of those things that that people didn't think Ephrata was able to do, that we were able to do in that season. And it becomes an easy thing. Like, hey, guys, if you put in the time and you work and things fall and you take care of what you can control, you can have a special season. And I think that's kind of helped change our mentality of the goals that we want to accomplish. So I think that season is going to live along for a very long time, for sure.
All right, now it's at the top of the history books. Yeah. All right, one last question. You're playing Cocalico, great rivalry, returned just recently, but it's been ongoing. Haven't got the win since 2010. So what is that going to mean if it were to happen this year for the players in the program now, and for everybody that has come through the program that has not been able to get the win since 2010?
Yeah, I think the big thing is just kind of give that hurdle. I think we have been knocking on the door the past 2 years. My first 2 times playing Cocalico in 16 and 17, those were clear mismatches. They were at a completely different place in the program than we were.
Sure.
And to be able to see how we closed that gap from 2017 to 2023, and then last year in 2024, I think obviously it means a heck of a lot for the community, and I think for us, it's another football game and another step towards our goals at this point. I think after the season is when you look back on those things and say we were able to do this. But anytime there's a trophy on the line and you have something to bring home with you in addition to a win, That's a pretty special feeling. We got over the hump a few years ago when we beat Warwick and we were able to bring the mail trophy home, and this is kind of the next one that said we did it, and that we were able to accomplish this piece, and so we'll see what happens in the game. And tomorrow night, it's two well-coached teams. I have nothing but respect for Stroll and the staff that they have there, and what they've been able to do has been impressive. And it's a rivalry, but I think we both have a ton of respect for each other.